Welcome back to Google Cloud Next 26. We are streaming live right here in Las Vegas. I'm Alison Kosik alongside John Furrier, and we're about to get into AI infrastructure kind of is the new competitive advantage.
And storage is the #1 thing that everyone keeps talking about because storage, network, and compute are the three main ingredients for these large scale clusters, and they're being reconfigured differently, and every day the story's still the same, get everything closer to the chips, to the processing, and storage is moving closer. We got two great guests, Google and DDN, to unpack that.
All right, let me introduce the guests here. We've got Alex Bouzari, the CEO and co-founder of DDN, and Asad Khan, the Senior Director of Storage at Google Cloud. Yep. Welcome back to theCUBE to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. Let's start with DDN. For those who don't know what DDN is in this picture of AI infrastructure.
Sure, so it's very easy. So DDN is a data engine that powers the AI economy. We are to data what NVIDIA and Google are to compute. You need both to do AI successfully. We help drive business outcomes, financial outcomes for enterprises, for nations, for consumers. That's what we do. We're the enabler of AI, the AI revolution. Bring it home, make it happen, deliver value from it.
Yeah.
So I talk about Google Cloud's news here because one of the things that's jumping out at everyone is the Gemini story. Obviously it's well documented, nice and tight, very clean positioning, but the real story is the data cloud and the agentic platform. That's got to be powered by all the storage. So how is that playing out from an infrastructure standpoint? Because you got the new TPUs, got NVIDIA leaning in with you guys, so you got a lot of action from the infrastructure, a lot of power. Yeah. What's going on with the data storage layer? What's actually happening this year?
Yeah, so I think as you rightly pointed out, there's a lot going on the Google side. And I think the one thing which truly differentiates is that it is not just about us building something for the customers. Google itself is using the same exact infrastructure to train Gemini and serve those capabilities to the customers. So all the way from the bottom, if you look at the innovations we have at the TPU, the GPUs, the networking stack that we have, all the way to the Kubernetes clusters and the investments we have in the application framework, that is what differentiates. Now when it comes to the storage, what you will find interesting is that is becoming over time the differentiator, and the reason is that we ourselves saw 4x more growth on data just in the last 3 years. Because everyone is bringing more and more data. Because yes, you can have the processing chips, but what will they process? They will process the data, and that is where the differentiation is.
The scale conversation, I talk to practitioners all the time on theCUBE, and the consistent message is, and these are my words, just paraphrasing, I want to run production workloads at scale. That's our North Star. Everything we do drives towards that. How is that working out in terms of how they think about storage? Because the data growth is massive.
Yeah.
Okay, and these systems are getting it done. What does that North Star mean for production workloads at scale, for AI specifically? What's changed in the storage equation with AI workloads at scale?
I think it comes down to a very simple thing, how saturated your GPUs and TPUs are, because those are super expensive, hard to find, and that drives a lot of the TCO. And one of the complaints you will hear from a lot of the companies that we work with is like, I'm not getting the return on my investment because they are overspending when it comes to the infrastructure. And when you go and double click that thing, you realize that they are not fully saturating the most expensive part of the infrastructure, which is the GPUs and the TPUs. To give you the example, and I'm sure we will get into the more details, but we were working with Harmonic, and they were saying that we are not getting the ROI. And they started using the Managed Lustre, and the saturation was 6x more, which is crazy. And now you can imagine how much of the money they were investing, but not getting the ROI. So how saturated is your GPU and TPU? It comes down to that, and it is about the network and the storage you are using.
Alex, weigh in here, because at GTC, we talked about this on theCUBE, and at supercomputing last year. It's kind of going faster than we see it happening. The data engine, you actually use that word, data engine, multiple times, that's a positioning. But it's storage with software. What's different this year, as the cloud is continuing to thunder away, there's demand. I mean, there's clearly demand.
I mean, demand is skyrocketing. I think what's happening is finally the world is evolving from experimenting with AI, trying to figure out what to do, how to do it, how to drive value, to production scale. That is really the pivot that is taking place. Agentic AI, I think, is making a huge difference. We have customers now who are utilizing internally trillions of tokens per month. Well, that's fantastic, it's helping drive value, but the economics have to pencil out. And so you need a data engine that delivers a number of token per hours where the ROI works out. And I think that's what we're doing, that's where our partnership with Google is enabling. We're able to deliver a data engine that is powered by Google Cloud, and it's delivering real value to enterprises, to banks, to hedge funds, to pharmaceuticals companies, manufacturing companies that are finally realizing the benefits of AI and are able to make money out of it, create value out of it. Because the monetization isn't there, if it's just an investment phase, who cares? That investment has to translate into business value, financial value. Yep. And I think that's what we're able to accomplish.
Talk about the relationship with Google Cloud, because I think this is where we're seeing a lot of action, because there's a lot of co-designing going on, a lot of partnerships, teamwork. Talk about the relationship with DDN and Google.
I think it's an optimization. I mean, Google came to us last year and they said, well, we have a business opportunity, we have a problem to solve. We believe that the DDN data engine, the DDN data plane can be enabler. We deployed it together, we optimized it together, we started delivering value through that together to organizations, and that business has grown phenomenally. I think it's one of the fastest growing partnerships that Google has had, definitely in the world of data. So it's resonating with customers because the customers are getting true business value out of it. It's not just, oh, I'm trying new things. They're using it in production. It's making banks more compliant. It's helping hedge funds generate better returns for their investors. Pharmaceuticals companies are able to bring new drugs to market faster, FDA approval. It's all of that, it's business enablement.
Asad, weigh in on your side. I mean, you guys are intentional with the full stack here.
Yep.
It's clear on this event. Talk about the partnership, from how that
So I think as Alex is saying that we saw the customer demand coming in. We wanted to make sure we have the best tech, and that is where the Lustre could differentiate. But as Alex is saying, it's not about just taking some IP or something. It is co-designing, it is ensuring we are using the right network, we are using the right VMs. There is a lot of discussion like, oh, C4X is the new VM type coming out. How do we become the first one using that capability? And that's why, like, even if you look at the announcement, one of the announcements was that we are now delivering 10 terabytes per second, which is a lot of throughput, right?
Which is like 10 times what it was just very recently.
which is 80 terabits per second of throughput. That is 4 to 20x of any hyperclouds which is offering. Because we did not just pick some open source software, we partnered with DDN, who has been the primary company this project. So that is the other thing which was really good partnership is that if you look at our pipeline for the customer, it is a very nice split where Google is bringing customer, but DDN is also bringing customer because these customers walk in and they say, oh, we are already familiar with them. We were working with them in on-prem. And now it's great that you have this partnership and we would love to move to the cloud.
I mean, customers need the flexibility, right?
Yes.
They're doing things on-prem, but then being able to utilize these capabilities in the cloud, in a trusted cloud, such as the one Google is bringing in with the DDN data engine. I mean, the other thing is the economics aspect of it. TPUs are expensive. And so for these services to work out, for Google to make money, for customers to be enabled, TPU utilization has to go up. Together, we've been able to achieve 95% plus TPU utilization, which is huge.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
First of all, great to lay that out. I love the performance numbers. Let's dig into that because the machines are only as good as the data feeding them. But you guys bring up a good point. If I'm checking the weather forecast, I don't want to use the most expensive machinery possible. I want my hardest problems being worked on by the best Pareto curve, by the best storage speed. So how is that looking? Is that going to be software driven? I mean, I'm seeing software-enabled scenarios like policy.
I think, look, software I think is the enabler, because in order for AI to function, in order for AI to deliver value, the data is coming in from everywhere, which means you have to be able to do inference at the edge. autonomous driving, cameras, sensor data, robots, then that needs to tie into data centers. Some customers have data centers. Then it needs to be enabled in the cloud. All of that needs to work together seamlessly, and so you need a data plane, you need a software layer that is not only driving efficiency, but is delivering the value. You have to be able to plug into the customer's IT infrastructures. I mean, Google and DDN together, what we've created is a capability that ties straight into the customer's infrastructure, so it's seamless. You have to be able to please the CIO, non-disruptive, and you have to be able to deliver value to the business owners, and the CFO, and the CEO. And together we're able to achieve that better than anybody has done in the past.
So you guys have the intelligence then to figure out where to put the data.
Absolutely.
And that's a key thing.
That's very, very important. That's very important because that's how you optimize, that's how you drive value. There are use cases where latency is not acceptable. You have to be able to process data, you have to be able to deliver outcome wherever it is. The latency part, in some cases, is very, very expensive. In other cases, you just cannot. It has to be processed in the location. So the intelligence of where the data should be, where it should be processed, where it should be delivered is critical. And together, we're able to achieve that. DDN and Google together are delivering that to our customers.
Yeah, one thing I will also add is that you can take a technology which is differentiated, but it is harder to stay differentiated. And I think that is where this partnership is really helping. So I will take one concrete example. A lot of the companies now are moving into the inferencing thing. Inferencing is like you go to one of your favorite large language model and you are asking questions. It needs to keep that context. And over time, more and more context is being kept around so that it remembers what you asked, or you can throw a lot of code and it has to parse that and keep that context. Last September, we did a joint blog between DDN and us on how Managed Lustre on Google is taking care of the KV cache. Now, everybody's talking about the KV cache and how they're doing, but how we were first to the market and how we were utilizing the local SSDs all the way to the remote storage and the parallel file system to give you the KV cache was a game changer because it saved so much cost, because otherwise people are not realizing that inferencing is very, very expensive. No matter whether you charge $9 or $200, you can't make that money back. So
and agents aren't going to make it any less critical. Because they're going to have reasoning. It's not a search discovery paradigm. It's not find the answers. They have to have intent. They have context.
Absolutely.
They have to have memory. And so, agents can't just be, oh, I got the answer, first one in. They got to actually know the context. That's got to be stored somewhere.
I mean, sure, and the industry, look, the industry is pushing for agentic enablement, which is definitely the new wave. We're seeing it, Google is seeing it, together we're enabling it. But the costs are now starting to increase substantially. Organizations are now seeing spends by their employees north of $10,000, $20,000 a month. And so it's great to say agentic, but the costs have to be contained and the value has to be delivered in economic sense that delivers outcomes and value.
So, I was going to say, what advice do you have to organizations that feel like they can't afford it?
Use the best technology that will provide the efficiency that is required for your business outcomes to be real and pencil out financially. That's the critical thing. Agentic is not going away. If you don't use agentic AI, you will not be differentiated, you would not be able to compete. So you need to embrace it, but you need to embrace it thoughtfully with the right technologies and the right partners. And this partnership, DDN and Google together are delivering that to enterprises, which is lowering the cost and increasing the value.
Yeah, and the full stack is you really need to have these integrations. Let's talk about the economics, the architecture, because what you're basically getting at is that the architecture's changed. I said on my opening, storage is getting closer to the processing. We're seeing that. Describe what that dynamic is, because storage has always been connected. Why is that such a big deal? We see HBM and we got NAND pricing is a little high right now, supply constraints, so prices are going up. I don't see them going down right now, but they've got to get that supply, but costs are a concern, CFOs are leaning in. What is really happening? Describe this dynamic of how everything's kind of getting closer. I mean, these are subsystems, memory, storage. software?
Sure, well, I think as an industry, what we need to do is we need to ensure that whatever the underlying infrastructure is, the compute, the GPUs, the TPUs, the networking, the storage, the SSDs, all of that, whatever that footprint is optimally enabled and enhanced by software in order to drive the business outcomes that pencil out for the CFO. It's really that. So I think the industry is pivoting from a world where you're looking at infrastructure optimization to business outcome delivery, the software stack within a given infrastructure footprint. Enterprises will say, this is the budget I have, it is our responsibility to deliver the maximum value given the CapEx investments that they're making or the cloud footprint that they're able to invest into.
Alice, I know you spend a lot of time with CEOs and CFOs. I mean, you've been doing this, I mean, longer than theCUBE.
A little bit.
Longer than theCUBE's been around. So, what is that CFO conversation? What are they penciling up? The CFOs are turning into operational people.
Absolutely.
And you're starting to see the chief people officer getting when you hear agents are doing work. So you're seeing the C-suite actually start their thinking shift happening. What is the CFO penciling out?
It's becoming transformational. So our conversations with CFOs and CEOs is help us understand what are the pain points and what are the business outcomes that you're trying to drive. From that, we then architect a framework that is AI enabled, that maximizes the value, and we translate that value into financial terms. That's music to the CFO, so it's like, oh my God, finally somebody who understands that it's all about monetization and ROI. It is not about the infrastructure. I want to eat the sausage. I don't want to know how the sausage is made. Don't tell me how the sausage is made. Just give me sausage, which I love, at a price point which works for me. So the conversations have really turned into business-driven.
But they're seeing the costs go up. And they're asking questions. What kind of questions are they asking?
They're saying, why is it that I have to invest that much money? Why is it, everybody's saying agentic. What should I do in terms of putting thresholds for our employees within the organization? How much should they spend? We're seeing organizations where they're saying, okay, up to $1,000 per month, every employee can do it. Then above $1,000, you need approval from the manager. And these thresholds are getting implemented. But I think we're in the early stages of it. The beauty of it is the benefits are huge. Benefits are massive. And it's not about cost cutting and
revenue,
firing
it's competitive
people.
advantage. It's competitive advantage.
Yeah, it's not about firing people. It's about delivering more value and making these organizations more competitive with better services and better capabilities which benefit their customers.
Yeah, actually some of the data we've been sharing on theCUBE is that CFOs that have been taking that stance have been driving revenue. So their profits increase, their headcount stayed the same. And so that's their reinvestment strategy. So they're funding, so they have to kind of balance the profitability equation with the overall investment thesis.
I think the whole C-suite of organizations is now razor-sharp focused on business outcome enablement. Whereas in the past, well, you had the CEO was worrying about that. You had the CRO who was selling the products and services. Now, the whole C-suite is aligned with that. You know, the CIO is no longer about keeping the lights on and ensuring that all the services are there. The CIO now has these powerful tools and is becoming increasingly strategic within the organizations. And so now he can ask for bigger budgets because his budgets are driving value, top line value, EBIT value, share price value.
So you see the CIO and the CFO gaining power in the organization.
Significantly. And that's why CIOs are worried about, well, it's infringing my territory. No, you're becoming much more strategic.
They have to team up. They cannot fight.
It's a C-suite team. It's no longer silos within the C-suite. Everybody has to come together, and that's what will deliver top line, EBIT, and share price.
Yeah, this is consistent with Asad, with what we were just talking about, with the performance you guys are gaining with the DDN partnership. It's teamwork, partnership, teamship, whatever word you want to use. Teamwork and partnership is playing out.
It's alignment.
What's on the docket for you guys? You've got great numbers on the performance, getting closer to the systems, the TPUs and GPUs.
Yeah, so I think we have, there is one thing to talk about the speeds and feeds. Let's talk about the success. So I think if you go and look at today on Lustre, as I said, the growth has been phenomenal. Because there is one thing where we can imagine that we do something and customer will come, customers are coming like crazy. And the interesting part is that you will find customers like enterprises like Salesforce, who is heavily using it, but on the same other side you will find like Sony Honda Mobility, they are using as a multimodal thing where they are training autonomous driving on top of it. Then you have Resemble AI, which is like more AI native companies and Harmonic. Then you have the academia, they love Lustre and what DDN has produced because they are allowing their students and their PhD people to go and do the experiments and their research on top of it, which is very, very important because that is the place where they are creating the future researchers who will come into the enterprise and then use this thing. So I think that the partnership is like, sometimes people spend a lot of time talking about the numbers and speeds and feeds. It was super amazing to see it's like not theoretical conversation. It's the business numbers and the revenue.
You got all the use cases. You got to be ready for anything. I mean, you just mentioned, rattled off, autonomous driving, physical AI, robotics,
all of it.
You know, all kinds of use cases. It's almost a non-deterministic world we're living in. I mean, this is what you have to be ready for, so this is kind of where this hits in. What's next for the partnership? Will you guys see anything, share any data? You're a private company, you can reveal some information.
I think there are a lot of things that we're working on together. I think it all revolves around how do we help enterprises, organizations embrace AI, benefit from AI, and grow from AI. So part of it is around the optimization of the infrastructure, the TPUs and the GPUs that Google has implemented in its data center. Part of it is software enablement and optimization of the software stack from the edge to the data center to the cloud, and stitching it all together will accelerate the adoption of AI, accelerate revenue, and accelerate profitability for enterprises globally. It's happening, it is happening right now.
Asad, thanks for coming on. Alice, always a pleasure, and always, as usual, dapper on theCUBE. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Great conversation, thanks. And you've been watching theCUBE, the leader in live technology coverage. We'll be right back.
Cool.